This is a podcast by the Business Times. Welcome to Podcast by the Business Times. I'm your host, Howie Lim. Now, amid slowing economic activity, COVID-19 has led to a surge in e-commerce and accelerated digital transformation. The digital economy boomed during the COVID-19 crisis as people embraced social distancing and turned to online shopping. But there are negatives to this global business paradigm shift: supply chain issues, including product scarcity and logistical bottlenecks. Apparently, this will continue through mid-2022. Now, for bigger companies with more resources, they can build up warehouses stocked with excess inventory, and some of the incoming inventory is waiting on large vessels trying to clear ports. SMEs, though, smaller businesses, they don't have that capability, and they will need different solutions, like maybe onshoring supply chain partnerships. So we've got some expert help for you today. Alex Lin, he's Managing Director of Lalamove. He joins us today to discuss this. This episode is brought to you by Lalamove. Alex, thanks for your time.
Hi, Howie.
Happy to have you with us today. Help us understand how important e-commerce has become for helping businesses during this pandemic.
So definitely when we come to the pandemic itself in Singapore, we do understand there are several different physical contact restrictions and also several safety measures, right? So we are talking about having a brief lockdown in Singapore and also certain capacity limit in entering malls and the stores. So essentially it changed the landscape for businesses. And we do understand that the e-commerce platform actually enables businesses to continue operating in spite of all these different restrictions and safety measures in place. So I would like to also stress that e-commerce is actually not limited to just luxury goods, but it's also towards like services, towards like our everyday necessity relevant to the masses as well. Concurrently, it has also become a very popular avenue to increase brand awareness for businesses to have a wider outreach for further potential growth. Similarly, it also accommodates to the change in consumer behavior as they shift their spending towards the online channels.
Funny you should say that. I have never bought a luxury good online, but I now buy my milk online every single time. Suffice to say, e-commerce is a big area. Are there maybe specific aspects of e-commerce that are, say, especially critical for helping businesses scale and for building that resilience against demand and supply shocks?
I'll say one of the key areas that we can probably be zooming into is logistics. It's actually one of the most important aspects to maybe focus on. So specifically talking about on-demand delivery itself, it combats challenges such as order fulfillment, reduced cost, as well as order accuracy and quality. So we can see that a lot of logistic carriers, they actually do not have any difficulties in reducing capacity when there's actually a fall in demand. But every time when there's actually a spike in demand because of festive seasons or certain seasonal needs, it's quite a challenge for them to accommodate this rise in volume. So I'll say that logistics is definitely one thing for us to zoom into and to really have a bit of focus on too.
What can you tell us though? I mean, you guys work with a lot of people, partners, merchants in e-commerce integration and transformation. What can you tell us?
So I'll say that quite a number of companies, they actually embrace the digital transformation. They kind of embark themselves on the emerging digital trend so as to really keep up with the demand of their businesses and to kind of remain relevant in the market, retain the customers and not to miss out on potential business opportunity. So merchants continuously look into the reduction of costs, the increase of revenue, improve overall customer experience, as well as further enhancement into their workflow, operational efficiencies, and also how they can actually focus on their core competency. Lalamove is actually kind of having this e-commerce integration system that actually help merchants to do exactly what I just spoke about. And one of the case studies that we can probably be giving here is this humble hawker that we are talking about, this client of ours that became a thriving food chain. So as the demand of the business actually become a bit too much for the merchant to operate single-handedly through the different manual means, they came to us and seek our help to supplement that in terms of their logistic operations. And this kind of maximize their potential and scale accordingly for them to reach their goal. And another case study that I would like to stress over here is through e-commerce itself, we also can understand new purchasing behavior. So one of our partners, a lingerie company, actually came on board with us with the integration to bring their business online. And one of the immediate shifts that we saw is the purchasing behavior from a specific gender, from the male. So essentially, the male find it easier to be making the purchase online for their partners as compared to be visiting the brick and mortar store where they might be embarrassed to be doing so.
Find us on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or via the Google Voice Assistant and Amazon Alexa-enabled devices. And now back to our podcast episode. Alex Lin is Managing Director of Lalamove. We're speaking to him today about e-commerce and how it helps transform businesses. This episode is brought to you by Lalamove. So Alex, drawing from your experience working with, say, partners and merchants who have managed to transform or pivot their businesses with e-commerce, I understand Lalamove's put together a 5-step plan, I'm liking this, for accelerating your business's e-commerce strategy. Maybe you can help walk us through it. What's step 1?
So step 1 is actually about researching, identifying, and to really select your business model. So the approach actually helps you to determine staffing, e-commerce platform, as well as logistic partner. So in our experience, working with brick and mortar merchants, they often stop short of fully adopting an omni-channel business model. Merchants often look to provide delivery as an option due to competition and consumer demand. They, however, often stop short of adopting the full e-commerce as a complementary sales channel for their businesses. Our team actually helped to bridge this gap, introducing them to e-commerce platform and integrators so that they can be working closely together with them. So we help to paint a picture on how omni-channel approach could work with and grow their business.
So then step 2 would be?
So when we come to step 2, it's actually about determining your product selection. So some products just aren't suited for e-commerce without product modification or certain fulfillment consideration. So choosing the right product.
Give us an example, like food, is it?
So see, in a few years back, when we talk about food delivery itself, right, we might not be considering having a takeout from a steamboat merchant.
Okay.
But in this time round, it's so different, right? The steamboat merchant is able to repack their food and prepare the soup base and get it delivered to the end consumer. So this is what we talk about, having certain product modification, and this is how we actually enter the e-commerce market being well prepared.
Yeah. All right, on to step 3 then, Alex.
So step 3 is actually deciding on the online channel. Merchants now have a host of options to choose from when it comes to selling online. Each comes with its pros and cons that requires careful consideration from the merchant. For example, e-commerce marketplace and aggregators provide immediate access to a large base of users, but at the expense of high commission fee and lack of direct engagement and data from their customer. E-commerce platform, on the other hand, such as Shopify, with out-of-the-box integration partners such as Lalamove, provide a holistic e-commerce platform, allowing merchants to have direct engagement with their customer, albeit require more investment to grow their customer base, especially from scratch.
So then step 4, I hear this is a crucial step. I mean, all steps are crucial, but this one's quite...
Right, definitely. Step 4 will be choosing the right logistic partner. So depending on the stage of the business and the business model itself, the logistic consideration needs to differ significantly. So first, we need to evaluate the logistic partner operation. What delivery options can they actually provide to you? Is it on demand, next day, or 3 to 5 days later? Do they have an extensive fleet variety or cold chain? Can they handle unexpected spikes in order volume, like I mentioned earlier, in terms of festive demand? For instance, during the festive season itself, Lalamove actually saw a huge spike in inquiries from different merchants and clients to support them for their projects and access orders that their own internal fleet and current 3PL could not actually fulfill. And also the last thing is whether they have significant experience working with the merchants in your industry. On this step for itself, we also need to properly understand whether the logistic partner you are matching with have the competency to provide the integration option. The integration competency from the logistic partner actually provides stakeholders with satisfactory, easy to use internal platform, enable them to actually be able to track the order and to get a very transparent pricing as well. So this in turn translate to cost reduction and also a reduce in manual process.
So I'd like to speak a bit more about this step 4, Alex, this crucial step of sorting out your last mile fulfillment, right? Are there dangers to focusing, say, too much on steps 1 through 3 and maybe neglecting this step 4?
So step 1 to 3 are actually equally important and interrelated with choosing the right logistic partner. So there's no inherent harm in focusing on it. In our experience, no business go out of their way to neglect logistics. It's usually inexperience, lack of research, and also cost as the only criteria, right? So earlier we mentioned evaluating the logistic partner operations, specifically if a logistic provider can handle unexpected spike in order volume during key online sales period, as typically what Lalamove get urgent inquiries on. Merchants need to actually consider this very properly and to ensure that they do not face any kind of fulfillment issue, which is in a way limiting their sales during all this very important sales period.
Okay, so let's recap. Step 1
will be research, identifying, and selecting your business model.
Step 2, I remember, product.
Right.
Step 3.
So step 3 will be deciding on the online channel.
Step 4, last mile fulfillment.
That's right. And also lastly, step 5 actually talk about marketing and customer service. So unlike brick and mortar establishments, e-commerce businesses can't rely on accessibility and choice deserts. A robust marketing funnel is actually very important to reach and engage customers. Merchants looking to grow their e-commerce should first evaluate their marketing capability. For instance, merchants using e-commerce platforms such as Shopify has access to marketing tools and channels as part of the service. Another important e-commerce consideration is definitely customer service. Who will be fulfilling this role? Given that a bulk of customers' inquiries derive during the last mile delivery process, merchants should consider the value add that external delivery provider can be giving them. An external provider would be able to relieve merchants from logistic inquiry through providing tech solutions to mitigate this, such as live tracking or certain hotlines or a chatbot.
So this 5-step plan actually sort of dovetails into your philosophy, right, on partner and merchant enablement. Why do you think this enablement is so important?
So the 5-step plan fits in similarly with what Lalamove has to offer, which is to provide fast, efficient, easy, and also affordable access to delivery for all our merchants that come on board with us. We essentially help to provide businesses with the opportunity to continually challenge the status quo and deliver more value to their customers through our convenience and flexible services. Having a seamless supply chain can either make or break your business. Aside from the quality and value of one's services and products, the entire delivery experience contributes to whether a customer chooses to proceed further with the merchant time and again.
All right, thanks so much for your advice, Alex, and for joining us today.
Right, thank you for having me, Howie.
Alex Lin is Managing Director of Lalamove. We're speaking to him today about e-commerce and how it helps transform businesses. This episode is brought to you by Lalamove. That was a podcast by the Business Times. Send your feedback to podcast@sph.com.sg. Find us on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or via the Google Voice Assistant and Amazon Alexa-enabled devices. For more podcasts by the Straits Times, the Business Times, and Money FM 89.3, you can also download the Audio by SPH app. That's AWEDIO. Do note, all analyses, opinions, recommendations, and other information in this podcast are for your general information only. You should not rely on them in making any decision. Please consult a fully qualified financial advisor or professional expert for independent advice and verification. To the fullest extent permitted by law, SPH Media shall not be liable for any loss arising from the use of or reliance on any analyses, opinions, recommendations, and other information in this podcast. SPH Media accepts no responsibility or liability whatsoever that may result or arise from the products, services, or information of any third parties.